His Majesty the King. King is the most important piece in checkers. How to get to a king? How powerful it can be? Is it worth particular number of pieces? Those and other questions will be answered in this, the first out of 2 theoretical lessons about king in checkers. Let's learn how king is playing against pieces in a checkers game. As you know from the rules of the game, the king can move on the all empty squares of the diagonals where it stands. Take a look at the diagram. The king standing in the central part of the board controls many squares. In this particular situation, 17 of them. From the previous lessons, you know as well what the opposition is, and before we start the topic of king, we need to know how to use the king and the opposition to win the game in the situation 1 piece against 1 piece. And the thing that you can see on the diagram is extremely important. There is the rule called the rule of 7th row. As you would count the number of rows from the white side, it would be the 7th of the board. And this rule says that the side that is on the move gets the better result. For example, if white pieces starts to play, they will get to the king and finally they will cut off the way of the dark piece, thanks to an opposition. The second scenario, if dark pieces are on the move, they are the first ones to get to the 7th row, 4th row from their side. In this situation, there is no way for white pieces, despite the fact they get to the king much faster, to stop the dark piece from turning into the king, and the game ends in a draw. Let's analyze this position. White pieces are on the move. This piece stands 1 square from the king, because once it will get to the first row of the opponent, it turns into the king. The question is where to play. You should make your king on the square that will allow you to cut your opponent's pieces from getting to the king. And as you can see, this one that stands on the square 31 is only 1, 2, 3 squares from a king. But to get there, it has to cross through the square 37 that lands on this diagonal, the longest board diagonal, called the main diagonal. So the obvious choice here is to place your king on the square number 5, cutting all those pieces. And now, what are the options for the dark pieces? If this piece would like to get to the king, it can come closer to 36, and there is the first threat that you have to be careful about. If white king would go to 46, it would be trapped immediately. As you can see, dark pieces stand in this formation, leaving 1 empty square between them. It gives the possibility of loop. Loop is the threat, is the way to capture opponent's king. In this situation, dark pieces would play 36-41 and white king would be obligated to take 2 pieces and dark pieces would win it. Another threat that you need to be careful about is not to be removed from the main diagonal. For example, if this king would play to 32, it would give the chance to dark pieces to play 17-21 and, with sacrificing the piece, removing the white king from the main diagonal. This piece could go further and turn into the king on the next move. Still, you have to be careful, because coming to 32 to attack this piece, if this piece would play to 46, it would be losing, because after going to this corner, number 5, there would be the move of dark pieces, who would just wait, and this king just has to be sacrificed. Taking all of this into account, gives us the conclusion that it's better to wait on the other side of the board. And what could be played now? For example, dark pieces play like this. It brings us to another situation where we have to be careful. In this position, of course, the white king can't go to 46 because it will be captured by the loop like before. The same formation of pieces as you could see before. Once again, it is not possible to go to 37 because the dark piece would be just given away and white king would be removed from the main diagonal. So we wait still on the opposite side of the board. And now we get to another key position. You can think now what the dark pieces are meant to play not to lose this endgame, because they can lose it on many different ways. For example, playing, after waiting move from the white side, 27 to 31. Building such triangle on the edge is not a good idea, because now just all the pieces would be sacrificed without any benefits, and white pieces, white king actually, would win this game. So what to play then? Of course, the only possibility not to lose is to play 26 to 31, to build this structure, this formation. It will allow dark pieces to sacrifice not one, but two pieces at once to remove the white king from the main diagonal. And there is still one trap that you can prepare for your opponent if you have the king on the main diagonal. You can play to 46. And of course, to have a draw, dark pieces would sacrifice 31 to 37, you take two pieces. This one has a free way to go, it goes to 41, and still playing to 32 gives your opponent a chance to make a mistake. If your opponent would go to 46, you can put your king in the opposite corner of the main diagonal. And this is the only situation that can happen where one king wins against one king. Of course, the right move to play for dark pieces would be to go to the king to 47. And game would end in a draw, because there is no way of winning against one king having only one king. Another example. The situation is quite similar to the previous one, but in this case we kinda turned the board 90 degrees. Now we have the possibility of put the king on the square, not on the main diagonal, but on so-called double line. As you can see, those two lines are only one square shorter than the main diagonal, and those lines are 90 degrees turned from the main diagonal. And the same situation, this king cuts the way of three dark pieces. And the same traps are possible in this position. After 19 to 24, of course, you know where you cannot play on the next move. Those squares are 45 and 34. After 45, the same capture possibility. After 34, just leaving one piece and getting to the king, which would end in a draw in this game. What to play then? The same situation, stay on the opposite side of the board. And once dark pieces will get closer and closer to the king, you need to see one thing. Now, this piece that stands closest to the king squares is 1, 2, 3 squares from a king. When we cut off the opponent's pieces on the main diagonal, the one standing on 36, the closest one to the king, had only 2 squares to go to a king, and now 3. It really changes the situation. Once again, the only possibility of breaking through to a king is to sacrifice 2 out of 3 pieces of this formation. Let's play to 12. And now the right move to play, to still have a hope for dark pieces, is to sacrifice those 2 and go to 40. But in this case, white pieces, actually white king, wins the game. It goes to 39, cutting this line, and after move 40 to 45, it stands on 50, and dark pieces are on the move, they have nowhere to go, no possible move to make, and it means that white pieces win the game. So you can see that king is extremely powerful, and it's a piece that can win even against 3 opponent's pieces. I do hope you enjoyed this video, this lesson. If so, don't forget to leave the thumb up under the video and subscribe to the checkersTV YouTube channel. As promised, in the next lesson you will find another theoretical one about king, but then king will be facing another opponent's kings. See you there!